And what a great lead in to our next plenary panel, which is women in supply chain. And I want to give a special shout out to one of the panelists, Gina Woullard, who's from my alma mater, Northrup Grumman. So, hi, Gina.
Hey, Wayne.
Hey.
How are you?
Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello, Gina.
Hey, Nick. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Glad to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you also.
Okay, thank you. Do you would like me to get started?
Yeah, it's all yours.
Perfect. First of all, congratulations to the award winners. That was fantastic. Wonderful lead in. And I want to give a thank you to the USC Marshall School of Business and its Center for Global Supply Chain Management. This hosting of this session of women leaders in supply chain is extremely critical, and I think it's been very much top of mind for a lot of individuals about diversity and inclusion and the need for it still as we have a ways to go. But I love the hope and the earnestness of the last few award recipients, so we'll take that. I do want to just also give a shout out to the USC team who worked tirelessly on answering last minute email requests, putting together an amazing group of panelists, extremely diverse and very accomplished. So I think we're gonna have a great session. We have about 40 minutes that we're gonna use for just an open Q&A, a little fireside chat. And then we'll do the last 15 to 20 minutes, give or take, on Q&A. So during the session, please feel free to put your notes and comments and chats in the app and on the chat here. I've already seen a few come in, and I'm going to try to incorporate as many of them as I can. First of all, my name is Elizabeth Hemann. I'm going to be the moderator for today's session. I head up lead logistics for North America at Maersk. Traditionally, that has been focused on our supply chain management and 4PL products, where we look to bring supply chain solutions to our customers to strategy where they have very focused outcomes that they're looking to achieve. And we try to take both things that we can bring as a company already or look to develop with them solutions that will work to support their needs. And I am extremely humbled to be part of today's panel. What I'm going to do is introduce each participant one by one and give them, say, 2 or 3 minutes where they can give a bit of an overview of their organizational roles and how that fits into their supply chain organization. But I also did ask each of the panelists if they could discuss a bit about how supply chain fits into their organizational hierarchy. I think we just heard a little bit about how it is at Intel, and I'm sure Ninette will give us a bit more on that in a minute. But we've definitely seen supply chain be elevated in the last 2 decades. And I think with the global pandemic, supply chain's been very much an urgent driving need. And I think it's gotten a lot more visibility. So I'd love to understand that arc of how that has flowed. I'd like to start with Lidia Yan. She is the co-founder and CEO at Next. She oversees the company's vision and growth strategies. With a background in logistics and e-commerce, both in China and now in the United States, she recognized the need in the market for a simpler, technology-enabled marketplace to match freight with capacity. And based on the previous session about the terminals, I think a lot of people can recognize the need for that. In 2015, she founded Next as the first trucker-centric app marketplace. And Next has been recognized by Forbes in 2019 as the next billion-dollar startup. And Lidia has been a finalist for EY's Entrepreneur of the Year and awarded a Stevie Award for Startup of the Year. So Lidia, I'm going to pass it over to you to share a little bit about your organizational role in supply chain hierarchy.
Yeah, for sure. Next is, we call ourselves the first trucker-centric marketplace, and we primarily focus on port drayage. So port drayage is hauling a container from the port to local warehouse and returning empty. And port drayage is also the most complex and most difficult sector in trucking and represent about $50 billion annual revenue. And it's a very, very difficult industry because, you know, we hired a very talented product managers, and typically it takes them about 3 months just to learn all the jargons and all the details of port drayage. And of course, the team's super excited to address this really large problems because I think overall, the industry has no technology. Drivers rely on brokers to find them loads via phone calls and text messages and emails. There are a lot of back and forth negotiations, and it's super inefficient. While brokers don't necessarily have very modern technologies, most of transportation management software for DOH were built almost 20 years ago. It looks like a DOS system. So So brokers basically call terminals and email terminal operators trying to find the status of their containers. Then they will email their shippers. So, and for the carriers, and for shippers, there's just no transparency. They do not know where their containers are real time. So we actually built a platform that connects the shippers, brokers, and carriers. So we're essentially a virtual broker. So we allow shippers to have visibility of their loads real time, so they can trace and track everything real time, retrieve digital documents instead of calling a broker trying to find a piece of paper from them. So this way they can largely increase their cash flow. And when it comes to drivers, they can take the loads that they want from our mobile app, because our industry's biggest problem is trucker shortage. Drivers leave the industry for a few reasons. One is we call forced dispatching. Forced dispatching meaning dispatching a driver to a location that is less preferred. So because they're human beings. For example, I wanted to go to LA Port. I wanted to go home at 5 o'clock, but typically they work with their own brokers, and brokers do not necessarily have the right loads for them all the time. So we actually allow them to access to the kind of customers that they didn't have opportunity to access to. And also all the drivers have access to the modern technologies that they didn't have opportunity to access to nowadays. So yeah, we're very proud to be the first DOH marketplace in the US, and we'll continue to bring in more talents to help us disrupt this $50 billion industry.
Okay, great. And we'll definitely be hitting more on your experience of tech in a few minutes. Next, I'd like to introduce Gina Woullard. I think we just had a brief moment there where you saw some of your alumni, which I loved. She is the Vice President of Manufacturing Operations for the aeronautics sector at Northrup Grumman, a premier provider of military aircraft, autonomous systems, aerospace structures, and next generation solutions. In her current role, Gina is responsible for ensuring on-time delivery for quality, affordable products. In addition, she directly oversees multiple production operations and works on that integration. She's served for 32 years in the aerospace industry with a broad range of experience, including air freight mechanic, which I love, and all the way through to different leadership roles, including commercial and military programs. For over 24 years, she has held management positions of increasing responsibility, including production operations and quality assurance. So Gina, I'd like to invite you to speak a little bit about your organizational responsibilities, where supply chain fits into the organization, and if you've seen an evolution of that at all. Gina, I think you might be on mute, which is a very common thing we all say today.
Okay, now can you hear me? Because I made sure to call in on the phone and not talk through the computer. I love talking to myself anyway. But anyway, I am responsible for manufacturing for the aeronautics system sector, and so we produce products and services for the Department of Defense. Supply chain is essential to everything we do. If I were to point to the F-35 Lightning II, where we're a sub to Lockheed Martin, we deal with millions of parts a day. Right, so we deliver an aircraft every 32 hours. So supply chain is fundamental to everything we do. So along with human capital, we have to have the products and services to make sure that we deliver to our contractual requirements. So it is extremely essential to our everyday business.
That's fantastic, thank you. And extremely impressive, 32 hours a plane?
Every 32 hours, yeah. Unbelievable. I actually did a Six Sigma project under Dr. Vyas's instruction for my green belt, my Lean Six Sigma green belt, so that we can help accelerate the activity that we use, using technology and advanced manufacturing so that we can achieve these aggressive targets. So it's exciting times for us.
Definitely, definitely. And I think you haven't been remote at all. Is that correct, Gina? You've been working every day?
No, yeah, I'm an essential worker, so Zoom is probably my most remote tool in my office here in Palmdale. Yeah, we do have employees that do work remotely, but because we build aircraft, I need to be next to the product.
That's right. Very close to the supply chain at all times. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to introduce Lisa Aurichio. She's a seasoned communications specialist, and she's the president of BSY Associates. This is a boutique public relations and marketing communications agency, and they specialize in international trade and transportation. It was one of the first PR agencies in this space of the maritime industry in the US, and it was launched about 46 years ago by a relatively well-known pioneer at the time, which was a maritime journalist, Barbara Spencer Ninette. Hope I'm doing her name justice there. But she really kind of set her feet into the maritime industry, which at the time was relatively male-dominated, I'd say, and I would say it still has a big footprint there. But we're working to close that gender parity. But I really think that the agency has stayed true to its roots and that it continues to serve for strategic marketing and consultancy as their partner, as they look to partner with their customers to try to help them differentiate themselves in the market, which is getting increasingly cluttered, with competition. So they're there to really support the customers' needs. She also serves, and I think she'll speak about it a little bit later today, it's the executive director of the Containerization and Intermodal Institute. This is focusing on providing scholarships for people interested in supply chain logistics and transportation. So Lisa, if you'd like to share a little bit about your roles and just how you're interacting with the supply chain industry and maybe what you've seen organizationally around supply chain hierarchy.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here today. I'm really happy to be on a panel with all these very, very accomplished female pioneers who are just trailblazers and making amazing things happen in this industry. As you mentioned, my role here within supply chain is a little different. We do have an agency that has launched nearly 5 decades ago by a trailblazer who saw an opportunity and was not impacted by the fact that these were all, pretty much all men at this time. Nearly 50 years ago, to have a woman working the docks and covering it from a journalist standpoint was quite unique. But she parlayed this passion for the industry with her creative and strategic approach and helped clients start to make their mark and set them apart from the competition. Within our industry, we have so many companies that offer very, very similar services, very similar products. And so it's really important to align with an organization like ours who understands and speaks the language to help differentiate the different offerings and the different ways you do business so that your potential customers can see your unique proposition. For where I stand, it's a really exciting way to work within the supply chain. You get to use strategy, you get to use creativity, and you get to talk about an industry all the time you're really passionate about. It is something that if you look at where the needs are, this is one of them. Talking to the press about what you can offer your customers, how you can change, how you can benefit the supply chain is a unique skill set. Not everybody knows how to do that. And in this industry, we still care about the trade press. It is one of the most important vehicles that our customers are looking at to determine which 3PL is going to work for me, which chassis equipment provider do I want to work with. And so we still need to have the relationships with the press, and that's what we do this day in, day out. We talk to the press, we talk to industry leaders, we talk to senior statesmen about our clients, and then we also learn from them, what's the next hot topic? What's the next thing I want to connect my client to? So if I have a container leasing client, for example, I want to be in every story about container leasing. I want to be on every panel about container leasing. I want my client to be seen as an industry leader, forward-thinking entrepreneur, a major player in this space, so that there's an inherent trust that the potential customers want to work with them. So that's our role within this business.
Fantastic, and we're definitely going to hit on branding and marketing for our own selves a bit. I know we're gonna tap into some of your knowledge there. Now I'd like to turn us to Fiona Deroo. Fiona is the Managing Director, Global Head of Trade Structuring and Supply Chain Finance Sales at Bank of America. She's a versatile leader, and she's held positions across international transaction banking, and she brings a wealth of valuable experience with her. Prior to her banking career, she also held corporate positions in marketing, investment management, import-export, and that took her around the world to West Africa, Great Britain, and Germany. She is passionate about the workings of global commerce, about bringing efficient financial solutions to corporations, and she's authored numerous publications in the international field and is often a speaker at national conferences such as this. Extremely happy to have you. Fiona?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you very much. And it's a hard act to follow, all these very powerful women here. Let me kind of shift it here from a financial perspective in supply chain. So as you think about trade finance, it has a credit flavor. From an underwriting perspective, for those instruments such as supply chain finance or standbys or ECAs, it's got an asset flavor as one purchases the receivables of an early payment discount in supply chain finance, for example, and also a cash management aspect as we provide, that transaction level payable or receivable flow against an invoice between a buyer or a supplier. So these different aspects of trade finance mean that it doesn't squarely fit into a traditional banking division, such as transaction banking, credit and loans. Like, we could fit almost anywhere in that space. And as I look at different global banks, we actually see trade finance in sometimes different divisions. At Bank of America, we are part of global transaction banking, and we're actually a bright light, I have to say. We collaborate across lines of businesses, and we've got a phenomenal global team that sit in different parts of the world. They are subject matter experts in structuring trade transactions from a financial perspective. And again, the real important part here is the collaboration and the networking that is so critical, because we don't squarely fit in a single hole here. That it's really important that we bring the bank to our clients in all the aspects around the supply chain component. And we've always been critical of supporting our clients. They're the core of our business, for sure. However, some key focus over the past 3 to 4 years, we've actually doubled the size of our business by making sure that we really become the most relevant place in supporting the economic health and sustainability for our clients. So when I say we, I refer to my esteemed colleagues, Jeff Brady, who we've heard at one of the keynotes. I refer to Anne McCormick, who we heard on a panel on innovation and technology, Karen Pace and Leslie McNamara, who lead our global risk and strategy. And then, of course, the sales teams that sit everywhere and focus on a variety of different structuring opportunities, client relationships, cultural differences around the world. So we're in a people business. We deliver financial structuring capabilities, and at the core of everything that we do is our client base. Back to you. Thank you.
I love it. Very customer centric, and congratulations on doubling the business. That's fantastic. We'll definitely be talking about keeping a diverse and inclusive network. So this will be great. We'll definitely be coming back to you. And I would like to now introduce Ninette Vaz from Intel. This is our final panelist. Extremely happy to have you. You are the Director of Global Supply Chain at Intel, and you've been a long-term Intel employee known for driving supply chain transformations. You formed and you currently lead an innovative supply chain technology department. And this team partners with supply chain experts in engineering, business and marketing to cultivate use of technology to improve supply chains, both for Intel and outside of the company. You also demonstrated that you're a clear, passionate advocate, as are many of our panelists today, for diverse and inclusive cultures. And I really am thrilled to have you here with us today. Can you speak a little bit about your organizational role, the hierarchy of supply chain at Intel? I'd like to turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Elizabeth, very much. And I have to right off the bat say just a little bit of a shout out to Shaheen, who won that award. I was cheering her on from behind. But this has been a pleasure being here. And as you mentioned in the introduction, I've been at Intel many years and done many different roles. And the current role I'm in is sort of a nice place to be right now. I take my knowledge that I've gained over my many years and put it together in a very non-traditional way. Basically using the expertise of supply chain to work with the engineers and to work with the business groups to actually develop technology that helps solve our problems. So it's really fun. We go to them with really tough supply chain problems and we say, how do we solve this? Let's use my business knowledge and the team's business knowledge, partnering with them to create new products and then ourselves use that new technology internally. So it's a brilliant place to be right now because it's driving change, leveraging the knowledge we have. The second part of your question, Elizabeth, was where supply chain falls at Intel. Intel's a huge company, over 110,000 employees around the world. And I'm very pleased to say supply chain reports directly to the CEO of our company. And given the pandemic and what each one of us have gone through, it's now extremely clear the value that we play in the supply chain. And we have a chance to really bring the company together to understand the implications, whether it be technology, whether it be manufacturing, whether it be sourcing, and all of those play into the basic bottom line profitability and success of the company, and that's clearly recognized. So again, thank you for having us here. This is going to be an exciting conversation that we all have.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. So let's just kick it right off. You kind of hit it and you made a nice lead in, so I'm going to go to you for the first question, but let me start it off with technology. It's been extremely critical in the transformations of supply chain in the last 2 decades, though I think, as some of us know, that there's still a lot of space to go. Supply chains are increasingly fragmented, extremely complex, and customers and organizations, and frankly, the world is looking for us to provide a transformation that is efficient, smarter, easier, and then we can allow technology to help us there. So there's more need than ever to harness the power of digitalization. However, you often hear about, in the media and just in general, you often hear about a gap of female representation in technology. And there's a concern there that if there is this gap that we hear so much about, that it could actually result in women being left behind in the supply chain future career paths. So what I want to do is, Ninette, turn it right over back to you. You're obviously a leader in the tech space at a huge tech company, we all know. What's your perspective on this?
Yeah, so it's changed a lot. And one of the things I think we need to recognize is that we as women have an opportunity to actually voice our needs. And one of the things that has happened over my time at Intel is there's a recognition. In the beginning, there were fewer women. And you heard, I think, Dr. Reyes talk about the number of women entering university programs that maybe historically have been more male. That has changed. That flow through has gone on into the tech industry and every one of our industries, I think, on the panel here. So it's starting to change. And Intel is fairly bold, and we came out as a leader in 2018. We actually openly shared transparently some of our data, which caused other companies and even other industries to start showing our data in terms of parity of pay. And that has started this waterfall effect. So what I always say about this area is it begins with each of us as individuals. Look at your own team. Look and see who you have on your team, who influence your peer group. Start with yourself, and then have the influence all throughout the company. Our CEO is extremely committed to improving this area, and just recently an article came out how he does attend a monthly meeting where he talks about diversity and inclusion. And he talks about it, it's not only the right thing to do, but it's also the smart business thing to do. That having the diversity of people on a team in your department, in your company, makes a difference. And investors are looking at that as well. So right thing and the right business thing to do as well.
Well, that's really encouraging. And now, Lidia, I'm going to take it right over to you. You're the CEO of a company that's kind of based in tech, okay? But you also, when I started talking with you, you already have a pretty strong representation of females in the tech development space. Do you want to weigh in on this conversation, and particularly around the representation and the promotion of female talent in IT?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with Ninette, because there are an increasing number of companies and organizations that recognize the value that women add to the field, right? Gender issue in tech is also finally becoming a greater part of the conversation that we're having with each other or in the media. The industry as a whole is giving women a voice and shedding light on issues that create more room for growth. So at Next, we're committed to fostering a diversified talent set and a work environment. We believe inclusion, specifically for women and minorities, ultimately optimize employee performance and productivity. So 40% of our staff is female, with many of them in upper management roles. We made a huge effort to recruit top talents. Our team consists of people from YouTube, Google, Airbnb, Amazon, Snap, and more. So at our company, we're solving a major problem within the logistics space with technology. So the more diversity of perspectives we have and we can pull from the team, the better of the chances for us to make correct conclusions and strategic decisions.
That's great. I really appreciate some of that. Some of those statistics make you feel like we're on the right path, and that it's that maybe there's a bit of a narrative change that we need to work on. And I'm going to continue on this path, but to shift it a little bit, not just unique to technology, but we've seen a lot of diversity in supply chain roles coming up. And I was just looking at one of the questions that came in where the people was notating that there are women in a lot more supply chain fields and roles than there used to be. So when looking at our panel, extremely diverse backgrounds, extremely diverse current roles. I mean, from trade finance to aerospace, it's all through the space here of what you might consider traditional, but also not traditional. And I'd like to get an understanding from some of the panelists here about career opportunities in supply chain that you feel perhaps are really interesting for now, but even in the future, looking ahead a few years, and if any of those are particularly underrepresented by the female community. And then this is a two-part question. The first part would be, what can we do as academia and professionals to support each other and lift up? And then this is another question that came in on the panel's chat. It was about what can we do, especially in academia, because they often see, and they were highlighting that they specifically see a high penetration of women in school and in the programs such as the one that USC is hosting, but they don't necessarily see them at the same leadership. So if you can focus on both the academia aspect and also the professional aspect, and then any particular careers. So it's a loaded question, but Lisa, I'm gonna throw that to you, and good luck with it.
Okay, it's a lot. Well, I can say when I initially started this job that I have in the 90s. I started right out of college, and back then there was no such thing as supply chain. I actually don't even think it was in a word. I don't think it was a concept. It was called traffic. It was just, a very sort of, not perceived as being prestigious or requiring, a lot of business acumen. It was just not something that was well respected as the way that it is today. I joined supply chain, I guess this world of moving cargo, because I needed a job. I didn't know that this was necessarily a career path for me. I needed a job in public relations, and Obviously in college, I thought I'd have a job, you know, doing PR and advertising for McDonald's or Coca-Cola or BMW. And I ended up here and I was like, you know, at the time we had Evergreen and I was like, I've seen those big green boxes. I've seen them before. And I didn't really recognize the huge opportunity at that time that was ahead. But you know what? I strapped on my seatbelt and I learned that there is a big opportunity, not just for women. I mean, it's for anyone in this arena who has, you know, a creative mind and like a business acumen and a street smarts. I mean, this is a business for strong, forward-thinking and people who are willing to learn, even at the highest level, people who are willing to learn from their colleagues, from their competitors, from each other. So that was part of how we did this. We learned on the job. We read the JOC. This is what we did. No one came out of a school with an expectation, with understanding what supply chain management was. Fast forward to today, we still find that it is not necessarily an arena that people consider the marketing and branding right off the bat to take their supply chain expertise. They don't see this necessarily as the natural career path. As you said, natural is maybe not the way most of us got to where we are today. But as supply chain, as you mentioned, has become much more of a prestigious and respected industry, we have all these schools opening up with, you know, undergraduate degrees, certificates, master's degree programs, which has changed the face of who's coming out ready. And they're starting and they have to pay their dues. And I believe that in time, they'll move up to the higher level jobs. It's fairly new for women to be coming out of this industry with this degree. Where I see some underrepresentation still is coming out of the maritime academies, where they're learning at an even younger age the whole entire package of supply chain as it refers to ocean. We're still seeing that being male dominated, but that is shifting. That is also becoming women learning a sort of different approach to the entire process of moving cargo. As you mentioned, I work, I'm the executive director of the Containerization Intermodal Institute, and our mission is to provide and award scholarships to up-and-comers. USC Marshall is actually one of the schools we work with. We work with multiple throughout the country, and we are seeing a shift. And it's been over the last 7 years since I've been back, we've seen a pretty significant shift in it's still, I'd say 60-40, but we're moving very, very close to half and half. And we see, to your point, women who donate their scholarships say, one of my criteria is that it is a woman. I mean, they want it to be, you know, obviously have the right grades, have the right background, be the mover and shaker, but they want it to be a woman to give them a break, to give them an opportunity and pat them on the back, to be recognized, to groom them, to say, we see something in you. Please take your brains, your smarts, your talents, and stay in the industry. So we see that as being a positive move for women, but a positive move in general for any young talent that are putting time into this, you know, career path and then not necessarily pursuing it. We want to see everybody who's invested in it come out of this and continue to benefit the industry moving forward.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I was a Kings Point grad, which is the Maritime Academy, many years ago. And in fact, that was one of the questions on the panelists, to the panelists. But I'll tell you, it was an extremely male-dominated school then. I don't think it's changed dramatically, but I welcome women to look at all different ways of embracing supply chain. So actually, that takes me to you, Gina. I'd like you to tell me about some of the programs, because you have had a lot of unique backgrounds. And what are some things that you found to be successful at your organization of bringing diversity to roles, particularly the ones that are, you know, less female-centric? And then I know you've also done a lot around reskilling of talent. So I'd love to hear about that.
So first, I want to say that, you know, at Northrup Grumman, we feel that diversity and inclusion is a competitive advantage. We know that if people are engaged and they're participating and bringing forth innovative solutions, we can lead the market. In manufacturing and technology, we do struggle with females wanting to take on roles within those disciplines. You know, we have great examples. Our CEO is a female. So, you know, Kathy Warden is an amazing leader, leading 90,000, employees across the United States and internationally. And then for our supply chain, we have a corporate leader who is a female, and she's responsible for supply chain across the enterprise. So we have great role models that women who are interested in the fields can look to and emulate, because we actually provide insights to their career path, so they'll know which, assignments, exposure, education they need to achieve those levels of leadership. Now, specifically to what I do, manufacturing, as you know, not a lot of women are interested in being mechanics or, getting their hands dirty or even being in that environment, and it's very demanding. So there is always that debate over work-life balance. I have 4 children, 4 adult children. I have 2 grandchildren, 1 on the way. And I would say over the years, it has been a push-pull type of environment, because I want to be able to meet the, aggressive goals of delivering product on time on some aggressive schedules. And then I also want to be a present parent. And we know that dynamic is challenging. So what we've done recently is we've established an environment for women. We started this initiative, it's called We Connect. So we're trying to get women in technology and in manufacturing and those disciplines to have a cohort, similar to what you see in universities, so that they have a pool of resources and insights and partnerships. And then we facilitate their learning, get them the exposure, and make sure we oversee those assignments to help broaden their perspective in their roles, give them more resources. And of course, our strategy is retention. And what we've seen in our first cohort is a 96% retention rate, because in many of our facilities, they may not be the most aesthetic areas where people want to be, but that's where the product is. And where I'm personally located in Palmdale, we have 5 major programs. So if you want to be in the middle of the fire, this is where it is, right? So we're really being focused on making those roles more attractive so that people will explore them and then want to pursue them long term.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and congratulations on 96%. That's
yeah, it is awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm going to actually now say, Fiona, do you want to add in a little bit more here as well, some of your best practices?
Sure, thank you. What I would add, a number of different thoughts, because I think there's so much going on across so many different industries and companies. I'll start initially with sort of curiosity and career mobility. And, I think you can look at this from a very young age. I think about girls ages 6, 7, for example. And then I also think about a more mature workforce and reskilling. So if I go down that path and I start with sort of the career mobility perspective, I'm a huge advocate of career mobility. And again, I think many of us on the panel here have come in from different angles of the business and have brought all these transferable skills together to really lead the department that they're in or we're in today. I've only been in trade finance for 5 years. So my background really comes from coming from different areas of the business and really understanding, to my point, the balance sheet of wherever I'm at. So really making sure understanding of what drives the business and where do we spend our money ultimately. So a couple of things come to mind. From a curiosity perspective, something that we're doing at the bank is we're spending a lot of time in volunteering a lot of our female leaders with very young, I would say young girls, young kids, the ages of 6 and 7 at schools, mentoring and really helping foster that curiosity in the technology space, and even just broader business and understanding and not being shy to just simply not even going there with their minds. The second part of that helps is when they then go through their schooling years and they have that curiosity and they are, very happy to go and explore other areas that might not be common in how they've grown up, it really all opens up their horizons. that then enables them in turn, if they go to college, you know, they're looking at different curriculums from what might have been traditional 20 years ago. The second part of this is as well, I think about the more mature workforce, that, you know, how do we help reskill and inspire that curiosity as well? So at Bank of America, in our Tech and Ops groups, we have the equivalent of a mini university where individuals can actually raise their hand, and for a period of time, they're actually able to get out of their day jobs. And it's investment by the bank. They're able to get out of their day jobs and they can be reskilled in what we would call up and coming new technology. Something that normally they wouldn't be able to do because they're at work. They would have to quit, go to college, or they would have to do, you know, night schools, which may or may not be possible. So they have an opportunity to reskill in new technology elements that then enables them to come back into the groups, different groups, and they can continue to lead, you know, leverage their management skills, their leadership skills, or even as individual contributors, leverage those skills. Works really well because whilst the bank is investing in people, we also want to retain people that are living our core values and are really, they want to be here, they know their client base, they know the bank, they've got their network. It enables them to grow and blossom and flourish as well. So I think there's two different levels. You've got the very young girls, and then you've got the more mature workforce. And then you've got everything in between, which is pretty tough as well, right, to address. I look at our team here in North America. We've got a very diverse team. In our product development, it is pretty much all females, which is very impressive. I look at our sales groups and we're about 50-50 male-female, and we've got great diversity from Latina to Black to just across the board to really drive that diversity of thought. Other areas that we have is we have what we call P10 groups. We call it a power of 10. 10 powerful women get together once a month. And it's a safe environment. We are advocates for each other in our careers, and we're there to really help foster that curiosity, that education, that continuity, and leverage, share our network with each other, so we help people grow as well. There's a lot more, but there's a lot still to be done. I think particularly at the executive management level, there's still pretty big gaps.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I want to let everyone know we're coming right about to that part with the Q&A, but I've actually been looking at the questions and I'm trying to incorporate them. So please keep them coming, but I'll kind of keep the flow here. Before I pivot to one of the questions that came in that I think will be right for Lidia, I want to stay on this diversity and inclusion and a little bit of what you were just talking about, Fiona, about how this P10 group and some of that. Ninette, you have a bit of some thoughts, and I'm kind of hopping around a little bit. You have a bit of a vision about what we can be doing potentially as an organization to support better inclusivity in leadership, in women, diversity. I mean, we have a nice audience of participants here. Perhaps you can get someone to jump in. You want to share a little bit about your vision?
Yeah, thank you for enabling me to pitch my idea. Thank you. So I've had this idea. Many of us go to conferences, we talk with customers, suppliers. This crazy idea of bringing women across companies, across industries together to go solve problems. And I'm also a firm believer of walking in someone else's shoes to really learn and understand. So my crazy idea is this thought of why couldn't we do a rotational program across industries, across companies, to really help, because I believe every single industry has something that they are uniquely is their strength because of what they've experienced, whether you be in the retail area or if you're in transportation. And there's things that you know that could be very helpful to another industry. So it's kind of expanding that diversity and inclusion to do good for the world, not just for our companies, but for everyone. at all levels. So that was my crazy idea. And if anyone's interested in exploring that further, let me know.
Love it. Let's see if we get some takers, because I think we do need to think out of the box. There's some really great ideas that have come up, that people have been sharing, but why not, broaden it? I love it. I'm just going to flip to one of the questions that I really wanted to make sure we hit. So I'm actually going to go to the chat and I'm going to read this, hopefully. And this one's going to be for Lidia. I think this will be really good. So this was, are there initiatives underway in bringing next steps in supply chain tech funding to women-owned businesses? This is definitely something that I was hoping that you could jump in on.
Well, I did fundraising many times. So I can tell you a little bit of background about my own experience with fundraising. There's no doubt that being a female leader in a male-dominated tech industry requires strength and a lot of resilience. When I started Next, I was exactly the opposite of what everybody expected. Our company offers a marketplace to help truck drivers find loads. When I first started trying to work with drivers, even though they loved the idea, they didn't believe that it could make it work, right? I'm a 5'2" Asian woman, immigrant, who looks completely out of place near an 18-wheeler. The same is true for many investors I pitched to over 600 people in the past 5 years. For my first institution round in 2016, I spent 4 months raising $5 million. And one thing that I'm really bad at is really like sense of directions. I always get lost on the street, but I know Sand Hill Road and the strip near Stanford very, very well, because I walked back and forth on those roads to pitch investors with my little backpack and my very loud luggages. I'm walking by, and you see the wheels on the street going here and there. It feels really heroic. So I feel like once you set your true north, if you determine to be a startup founder or to launch your own venture, you need to be persistent and resilient. At the investor table, it's all about business. What they value is your performance and hard numbers. So at certain times, your gender, your look, your height don't matter anymore. It's your performance, your team, your true numbers. They respect you as an entrepreneur. And of course, you have to fight hard to earn it. But I do see a lot more funding got deployed to female founders lately. And also I saw some specific funds that dedicate to female founders. I'm really happy to see the trends that Silicon Valley is going through right now. And also I learned a lot in the past 5 years. And I saw the transformation. I'm really, really excited about the future. I think the world is ready for more female founders.
I think so. Yeah, damn right it is. I love it. Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to hop around a little bit and incorporate, and I've got a couple lightning rounds coming, but I want to just fast forward a little bit in some of the things around branding. I was reading something the other day, and it was on LinkedIn. It was a learning series, and they were talking about, do you have the right answer to the tell me about yourself question? And it kind of parlayed into this whole idea of branding and how extremely important it is. For us as professionals and in our personal lives as well, but to articulate our vision, our style, our passion, and our particular skill sets as well. So branding's everything. And I really wanted to turn this over to Lisa, who spends a lot of time in her role at the agency. Can you talk about the importance of focusing on branding and aspects there, please?
Well, again, it goes back to what I said earlier about knowing the difference, whatever it is about you as an individual, as well as your organization, that is different from the competition. In this environment we're in right now, I mean, the customers have needs that need to be met. They need to be efficient. They need to be, fiscally responsible, very specific needs. And you need to be able to position why your product, service, company, all of that will be the best opportunity to meet those needs. Very important to this business as well is the relationship part. This is part of the business that's old school that I love, that they continue to need to have relationships. They care about your company. They care about your state-of-the-art equipment, your amazing technology. But at the end of the day, there's a trust factor with the human being. And I think that is really important and part of the relationship that customers have with their, their vendors. And I think it's impacted obviously by where we are today with all these Zoom calls. I mean, this is a business where you close deals over stakes, where you make relationships, you have relationships and connections at a conference. All of that has been radically changed, and we have to morph into whatever it's going to be. And the pendulum will swing back, but it's probably going to look very different than it used to be. And I think that's something that we continue to try to say, how do we, without using the traditional ways we've always worked, get the word out about how you're different. You might not have the same speaking opportunities to go and shake hands and grab a cup of coffee or something stronger to get to know some of your potential customers. And while you might be able to maintain your current business, what might be a little harder is getting new business over the virtual media. So we're trying to figure out, as we do this, how do we build the buffers to get the brand messaging out there, make sure all your potential customers are aware of who you are and what you're doing and what's different. I will say that my clients are paying way more attention to what we're doing now in this world, because some of those obvious low-hanging fruits of going to conferences and meeting customers and seeing people that you may normally see every year at TPM, for example, that's not there anymore. So they're looking at, what is PR doing? What is social media doing? Why are we here? I'm hearing from them at 5 in the morning. I'm getting emails about, CEOs of our companies we work for are paying a lot more attention to what we're doing, because they're looking at saying, I have to now rely on some of these other communications vehicles to get the word out about my product and services. And it's great. We love it. We love that we're engaging at such a deep level now. We've had to pivot. We've had to throw away some of our plans like everyone else, but it's part of what's the challenge, and it's part of fun. And that branding now is the way you have to communicate your brand is different. I mean, it used to be, this was one element of how you communicated. Now it's the premier, and then the most significant element is getting the word out virtually, because that's what we have to work with right now. So thanks.
No, thank you. We're coming up towards our end, last few minutes here. We have a few things. I'm going to throw us into a few lightning rounds. So everyone get ready. We're going to do it. So I'm going to challenge everyone for a 2 or 3 word brand that kind of encapsulates, what you're trying to get across. So Fiona, I'm going to start with you.
Passion, connectivity, curiosity.
That's great. Gina?
Resilient and influential.
Okay. That's a good word for this year. Okay, Lisa, your 2 or 3 words.
I'm not copying, I swear it was already my word, but resilient, dynamic, and go-getter.
Okay, I like it. Lydia?
I have one word. That's what my employees call me. They call me fearless leader. So fearless.
I like it. I like it. And Ninette?
So 3 words: humanitarian, optimistic, trailblazer.
Okay. One of the questions that came in that I think we should do as a lightning round, and we'll see if we can get into real quick, but I don't know if we can. But by the way, I appreciate everyone submitting as many questions as you did. I tried to incorporate them in seamlessly. Let's see how we get the feedback later. But if there's 1 or 2 things, keep it brief, that people can do to really focus on upskilling themselves, what would that be, particularly in supply chain? And if it's not an upskill, at least an ability coming out of school. So I'm going to go back in the same order. Fiona, you're up.
Take a risk, take a chance. Don't go safe, go bold.
Okay. Gina?
I would say take assignments that you fear. Don't do what makes you feel comfortable. Lead and challenge yourself to do things that you never even thought were possible. When you listen to Lydia, it's amazing that she took boots to ground to go pursue her dream, and then what it yielded as a result. So, dream big and be bold.
I love it. I love it. So Lisa, you want to parlay on that?
Sure. I mean, I'd say stay very true to yourself. I mean, I'm speaking, to everyone, but to women in particular. Don't try to morph into what you think people may want you to be, who they expect to see at the meeting. Don't be that person. Be yourself. This industry respects confidence, strength, and conviction, and they brought you to the table because of the value that you're bringing. So be true to yourself.
I like them all so far. Okay, Lidia, you're next.
All right. My suggestion is be hungry, be humble, and be proactive, and take every job seriously and learn with open mind. Hang out with people who are better than you, smarter than you, stronger than you, because they make you better. Lastly, fight on, drink responsibly. I was a children once upon a time. I know what it was like.
Yes, definitely fight on responsibly. Okay, Ninette, you want to have just sort of an upskill or an ability here that you really think people should be focusing on?
Yeah, it's almost adding on to what Lidia said, is definitely be curious and learn from others, but also help others. Be that person who's helping, no matter where you are, even if you're just beginning. The day you start, you know more than the person who's coming behind you, so help them.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. I want to be respectful of our moderators. We're right at the top of the hour. Do they want us to continue to going right to the 2:05 mark, or would they like to transition into the next session?
You've got 3 more minutes.
Fantastic. Okay, then I'm going to do one more lightning round, and then Fiona, if we can, we're going to squeeze it in for you. One of these really unique questions that came in, but I thought was really powerful, was about sports. How does sports play into kind of our motivation? Did it drive us? And we maybe can't get into a lot of that, but let's just do a round table. What's the 1 or 2 sports that really drove everyone? So Fiona, back to you. Did you ever play
sports? Goodness. For me, it is scuba diving and rock climbing, and it is the social interaction that you get through that. Is you bump into people you would normally never bump into, no pun intended.
Well, I would say that you're taking your fearless lifestyle that you gave us the last round very seriously. Gina, what about you?
Well, anyone who knows me, it's all about football. So, every position is critical, from the long snapper to the quarterback. It's not always those visible roles that make the difference. It's the people that are taking the hits and defending the line that move the needle on the game. So it's football for me.
Okay. So then, Lisa, I'm going to go to you.
Similar to what Gina said, I was a softball player, and it was I was the pitcher, which is sort of like the quarterback on the team. But you need to have all the other players do their job, or you just can't play well. You can't have you need to have the confidence that every member on your team is going to do their job, so you can play fearlessly.
Okay, Lidia.
My favorite sport is swimming. It's a lonely sport, and I swim every morning, 30 minutes, 20 laps. I think as a leader, one, you need to really engage your team. At the same time, you need to learn to be lonely. And also while you're alone, you still need to drive yourself forward. So I think swimming is where we learned that.
Well, first of all, I was a swimmer in college. It was really not a great one, but I enjoyed the part of it. So I like your perspective there. So Ninette, what about you?
So it's been a long time ago, but I used to do hurdles, and the confidence to look at that hurdle and that gate and go over it and just believe you can do it, I think is very, very important. Focus and belief in yourself.
Those are empowering, amazing messages. We are kind of out of time. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. I was worried that we wouldn't have many questions, but we had great questions from the audience and interaction. The panelists were amazing, very giving of their time, both in advance of today and during today's session. And I want to again thank USC. This is a great forum. I'm hoping to check out some more of the sessions. I'm hoping there's some more recordings, of some of the ones I missed. But I want to say thank you so much on behalf of all the panelists today for allowing us this opportunity to speak about women in supply chain.
So before we get a chance to thank everybody, but Elizabeth, we will be taping, all the sessions will be not only taped, they've already been taped, but they'll be broken into the thematic by day sessions and will be posted on the website. But again, I want to thank you all. Such a stimulating conversation, and I am sure every participants and my students, both the past and the present and the future, will appreciate your zeal and energy that you exhibited. We have an incredible frontier in front of us, and certainly you guys spoke about the attributes that will be the key to the future of women leaders in our supply chain industry.
You are amazing women. You had me totally captivated for an hour, as the rest of the audience. So great job, Elizabeth. Nice job moderating too. You did a great job.
Your team made it. Everyone made it extremely easy. It was wonderful. Thank you.